Welcome. You're listening to the Do Video Podcast. Today is Friday, February 5th, 2021, and it's the day to celebrate the best type of fondue, chocolate fondue. Now, embrace your host, Zoe Wood, the video confidence coach. Jid Day Crew, it's Zoe the video confidence coach, your guide to personal branding. Editor Zoe here for the final time this week, and today we're gonna talk about the namesake of my business name, confidence, surprisingly. So today I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how to make yourself feel and seem more confident when presenting on camera. But also, it's one of those situations where if you exude confidence, you feel confident in yourself as well. So I must say that's a nice technique that I use. But today, I just wanted to reaffirm and talk to you that confidence is not an on-off switch. You can't just switch yourself on and then you're super confident. And then when you get home, you just switch it off. It's a mental muscle that you need to constantly work out, that you constantly need to practice. And you need to be doing things that make you feel uncomfortable, and then pushing through that to be confident in those situations. Obviously, safely, of course, and continue to keep making and working that mental muscle to be able to function as confidently as you can. And confidence is also knowing your worth, not seeing yourself as better than others, but knowing that you are confident in what you are saying and why you are saying it, right? In our podcast today, I just want to talk about a couple of activities, a couple of tricks that you can use to build up your confidence in a situation that you may not feel as confident. And of course, I want to say that this confidence is mainly in my niche, which is video competence, of being in front of the camera, of being in front of a microphone, and talking confidently. Of course, right now I'm using my AI voice because my hoarse voice at the moment sounds absolutely terrible. And I wouldn't want to surrender your eardrums to that type of terrible sounding voice. But back to confidence.
You're listening to the Do Video Podcast.
I want to talk to you about an activity where focusing on you and your body and focusing your energy and your attention on your inside of your body. Because where we store energy in our body is important to how we feel confident to say, for example, if you're about to present in front of a crowd that you're unaware of, like they're not your peers, not your friends, you don't actually know anyone in the crowd, and you're standing from this podium, the lights are shining down on you, and you feel that sense of butterflies in your stomach and your hands begin to shake, your lips begin to tremble, because it's a fear response. It's your gut telling you get out of here. It's not safe move, essentially. And it's not that people who exude a sense of confidence don't feel that way, they do. They just have learned to control it, or have that sense of fear be a normal feeling when doing the activity you're about to do. So say, for example, like getting on stage and talking to people, and this type of fear sits in your body. So it just sits in the stomach and just manifests there and just continues. And usually when, say, for example, recording either a live video or getting on stage or recording something for the first time, it usually sits there for a good, 3 to 5 minutes, it sits there. But then once you get your flow, once you've maybe stumbled a couple of times, but you've been able to recover, that sense of fear usually dissipates into excitement, into frenzied emotion, because that feeling is sitting in your body. One activity I recommend is to move your body around before you go live on camera or before you get on stage. Might be interesting to do an interpretive dance when you're on stage, but it depends on your niche. But to be able to just not. And I'm not saying inherently exercise. I'm not saying that you have to move your body, like running or anything. I'm not saying that type of exercise. I'm just saying move your body around. Because the feeling of the pit in the stomach, if you're moving a body around or doing an interpretive dance, being flexible, shaking out those nerves, it's because you're moving that energy from the pit of your stomach to everywhere in your body. And it feels less intense. It feels more dissipated because it's the movement and feeling throughout your body. You can also use another technique, of which I've taught in the past and continue to teach, is called power moves. Power moves very much like the strong men, where you have your hands above your head and you're almost like a showing of your muscles. It's usually the strong man. And the Wonder Woman, where you have your hands on your waist and you puff out your chest. And another one is where you just stand as tall as you can, puff out your chest and put your hands out to your side, a little bit away from your body. Now, you hold these for a minimum of 10 seconds, so 10 to 15 seconds. And this almost tricks your mind into thinking that you are confident, that you are powerful, because you're standing in this particular way. You're pretty much convincing your body, how almost tricking your mind and being confident, because your body is acting confident, your chest is out, Your arms are out. You're not like holding your arms. You're not crawling into a fetal position. You're not trying to protect yourself in any way. Because you are confident and you're powerful. So you do those power moves. And you get into position, and you make sure you hold it. You don't just do it for a couple seconds, you make sure you hold it for a minimum of 10 to 15 seconds. And then once you let that go, that initial rush of endorphins and that feeling that you will feel, because again, your body is telling your mind to think. So you'll feel confident just because of the way that you've moved your body. You let it go. And if you feel like, okay, my mind has fallen back into that, or I'm afraid, I'm fearful. I'm not confident in this. I'm not confident in this. Do it again. If you feel like it's not working, then do it a different way. Move your body a different way. That's why you hear and see when actors are about to go and say talk shows, they have their own room. Or they're in a green room before they actually have to get on stage. Usually because they're doing things like this. They're moving their body around. They're doing exercises. Maybe they're talking to the staff, or they're talking to other guests on the TV show to calm their nerves and to make them feel a lot better about the situation, because they're forcing themselves to focus on something else.
Do Video Podcast.
The next way to be a bit more confident is to acknowledge the success that you've already had. Now this is more of a mental thing, but being super specific about the goals that you've achieved in the past, as well as the goals that you wish to achieve in the future, can help you see a sense of progression, but also see that you've been able to achieve this type of confidence before. So say, for example, we've all had that time when we were babies and we were first trying something new, be that crawling, be that trying new foods, or just trying new things as we make our way into the world of little tiny itty-bitty creatures, relying solely on our parents and caregivers, but, that sense of accomplishment that we did. And if something failed, or something didn't work out, we just did it again. Recently, I was with my little Niblet, my little niece, and she had lemon for the first time. She picked it up, looked at it a bit, and then bite into it, and then immediately, her face soured, her face puckered, and she was like, no, and pulled away. We all laughed because we all had that same reaction to it, but instead of throwing it away or dropping it, she did it again and then got the same reaction, but this time she was laughing too, she was smiling. And then she just did it again, because she knows, one, that she can make us a laugh, and two, it was that feeling of, this hasn't hurt me, this hasn't damaged me in any way. Yes, it was surprising, but I can do it again. And that's the same thing with building confidence in yourself mentally, and this be transferred to just confidence in your life, as well as confidence on video, or anything that you're about to do to build your personal brand. That confidence of you've actually stood outside your comfort zone. You have achieved this in the past, and you can achieve it again, and because a little bit of the old saying of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You've done it in the past, you can just do it again. Seeing that progress and also taking that time to reflect on the progress that you've been able to achieve so far will mentally give you that run-up effect and be able to just give you that an extra jolt when it comes to actually seeing that, oh, I've done this before, I can just do it again. And even though that feeling or impulse that I cannot do this, who am I to even try? Feel free to see my video on imposter syndrome, because you are not alone in that feeling. Back to focusing on your mindset and looking back at what you've achieved in your brand building journey, reviewing the steps you're already making in progress to achieve your goals. If you're doing that, then you're actively working on building your confidence too. You've come this far, so keep on going.
Sponsored spot.
Have you been enjoying the podcast so far? Thank you for sticking by with my voice as I talk about confidence, especially on camera confidence. But I do see the irony on me too. But right now, I don't sound too good. So let's continue. Make sure that if you've enjoyed the podcast so far, and you've enjoyed our previous episode that hopefully you listened to, or you're about to listen to, make sure you subscribe to our Do Video podcast on your podcast catcher of choice. Or, if you're so inclined, why don't you give us a review on Apple Podcasts? If not, feel free to review us on Podchaser instead. It's like the IMDb for podcasts. All right, I'll leave you to it. And we'll move on to the next point.
You're listening to the Do Video Podcast.
So the last two ways that you can use to get confident is to embrace your body and your mind to step outside your comfort zone. So that feeling of fear, that feeling of imposter syndrome, and that feeling of just trying new things becomes a normal feeling for you that you aren't scared of. You aren't afraid of your fear response. As we talked to at the start of this podcast, where we talked about people getting on stage, that feeling all butterflies in their stomach and their hands go cold and shaky and their lips tremble. It's because that feeling of fear is not a desire or a feeling that we want to experience regularly. It's supposed to be an adrenaline-filled thing that your body exudes to make sure that you have the energy, the ability to get out of the situation that you're in. So it's not an experience or a feeling that we all like and all have, and we all want to experience on the daily. But being able to just experience those things by trying something new on a regular basis, be it inside your niche or inside your industry or just something that's completely outside of your comfort zone. Being able to try these new things will give you that effect that you understand this fear response, you understand this feeling of fear, and how it's nothing to be afraid of, and you can just contend to focus on what you need to focus on and do the job at hand. The last way feel confident is by doing your research. Google and research online. People have done what you've done before. And if you're doing something completely new, which, throughout all of human history, I highly doubt, but if there's something that you can't find a lot of information when it comes to the thing that you're about to embark on, then looking at avenues that are parallel what you're doing. So say, for example, you're about to get on stage. Probably don't do your research 5 minutes before you're about to get on stage. But if, say, for example, you know that you are going to be at a conference in 3 days till you've already got your speech written out, you're gonna say you know how you gotta say it. Why don't you just go Google how to present to your peers or how to speak confident? I like actively research because once you see other people doing it, it's this human effect which I have forgotten the name of. But it's this idea that because you've seen other humans doing the same thing that you're doing, you don't feel as I'm shocked or sidelined because you've already seen other people do it. Now I'm not saying this is gonna take away all those butterflies and all that fear response. I'm not saying that, but one, to see other people doing what you're doing. We're about to do is that feeling of this can be done. They have presented at this conference, they're still alive and kicking. Say for example, you can also research absolute fails. Live fails, unlike for the live video podcasting fails or anything like that, and you can see that people have made these huge and are almost career-ending mistakes and they've still been able to bounce back. They've still been able to, laugh and shrug it off and continue doing what they were doing. So even if you do make a mistake, because that's also what your fear response is your fear of making a mistake because you're trying something new. If you see other people have been able to bounce back from the worst possible sense already that you can concoct up in your head, and they're still fine, they're still alive, they're still doing what they want to do, they still have the freedom to do what they want to do next, then you can do it too.
Before we end the podcast, I would like to acknowledge and pay respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians and owners of the land on which I produce this podcast. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I stand with the traditional custodians of these lands in working towards a more equal future. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people continue to face discrimination and disadvantage due to our country's colonial past. I stand with them in their fight against injustice. The Do Video podcast and Video Confidence Coach exist purely for educational purposes, and all information provided is of a general nature and should not be solely relied upon to make a branding decision. That's why you get me to consult with you directly. Wink wink. My email is pod@vcc.training if you're interested. I ask, if you like the show, to subscribe and give me 5 shining stars on your review on your podcaster of choice. And join the Video Confidence crew by following me on my socials. Links in the show notes below. TLDW, too long didn't watch.
Being more confident is about tricking your brain by moving a body into power poses and tricking your brain into thinking that if your body is confident about the situation, so should the brain. Also take that time to reflect on the goals you wish to achieve and what you've achieved in the past by trying new things and using the novelty of this situation. You might be unconfident to build up the normal fear response you will have. All of being afraid of something or that lack of confidence in something no longer be a barrier to you. And before you have to do anything that you are going to be unconfident in, why not research other people doing the same thing or maybe other people failing at doing the same thing? So you can see that there is always a bright side to trying new things and stepping outside your comfort zone.
What's next?
Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. What's next for you? I recommend checking out January 29th, 2021 episode on imposter syndrome and what that is all about. I did refer to that today in today's podcast, but if you're unsure of what that is about, make sure you check out that podcast episode as well. And also maybe look into our other podcast episode from the 11th of January 2021, talking about being done is better than perfect. Yes, it's not inherently talking about confidence, but it's talking about not being a perfectionist when it comes to trying something new when going out and building a personal brand. Just getting it done is better than having it absolutely perfect, because there is no such thing, and you can also build up your confidence by knowing that just because you feel overwhelmed right now doesn't mean you can't achieve what you need to. So I hope you've enjoyed in today's podcast. You hear me next week, you'll actually hear the real Zoe. I'll be in person and I'll be in flesh and blood, because by then my voice should be fine and not sounds like utter terribleness. Bye, kiss.